What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Fast. Today, let's get started with Chandler makes eye-opening claim on how Islam Makhachev could handily beat Ilia Topuria. UFC lightweight Chandler shared his thoughts on the potential Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev bout and how he believes the fight would unfold. Topuria delivered a spectacular performance in his first featherweight title defense against Max Holloway at UFC 308. Following this historic victory, the Spaniard expressed his desire to secure a second belt. He also vowed to vacate his featherweight title and move up to the lightweight division, calling out Makhachev for a potential fight. Ilia Topuria, one of my favorite fighters to watch stylistically. Ilia does a great job of that winning by one. He doesn't force anything, doesn't get outside of himself, doesn't get emotional, and doesn't push too hard. At the same time, he doesn't take his foot off the gas too much. He stays right in the middle until he lands that big knockout punch. I honestly didn't think he was going to knock Max Holloway out, but he did. Furthermore, Chandler asserted if Makhachev could survive 15 minutes against Topuria, then the lightweight champion could easily beat El Matador. I think he could catch Islam Makhachev too. However, if that fight goes beyond 15 minutes, I believe Islam beats him handily because Islam is a very large lightweight, while Ilia isn't that big for a featherweight. Beneil Dariush targets 3 potential opponents after UFC 311 fight fallout. Beneil Dariush is determined to turn his misfortune into a run of success. In a recent interview with Inside Fighting, the UFC lightweight detailed a potential plan that could lead him back to the fringes of title contention at 155 pounds. As he sees it, a bout with Dustin Poirier is the way. At UFC 311, Dariush had a different opportunity, as he was set to take on Renato Moicano. Unfortunately, the Brazilian stepped in on short notice for an injured Arman Tsarukyan, who had withdrawn from his lightweight title fight against Islam Makhachev in the main event. To make matters worse, Dariush was not given a replacement foe. However, there are several fighters he'd like to face, none of whom are Moicano. It's Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway, or what's his name, Michael Chandler. You know, obviously I don't know how Chandler is ahead of me in the rankings, but I think those are the fights that make sense. And my most ideal one would be Dustin Poirier, and then Holloway, then Chandler. Mostly it's the elevation of my position in the division. It's kind of where I think, if I beat Dustin Poirier, I'm pretty much back in title contention. I think same thing with Max Holloway. Maybe not so much with, what's his name, Michael Chandler, but I still think it puts me in a pretty good place, so that's kind of my mindset. Aljamain Sterling eyes April return against Arnold Allen or Brian Ortega. Former UFC bantamweight champ Aljamain Sterling isn't done hunting for gold. After dropping the title to Sean O'Malley at UFC 292, Sterling moved to featherweight, picking up a big win in his divisional debut over Calvin Kattar at UFC 300. Given his name and status as a former champion, he was likely one win away if he could get past the undefeated Movsar Evloev at UFC 310. Unfortunately, the judges weren't on his side that night, initially causing him to question his fighting future. A lot of fans don't think I lost that fight. I watched it back a couple times now, and I still don't think I lost the fight. Obviously, the judges are the judge, so whatever they say is going to stay in the history books. I would love to run it back with him. If not, maybe fight Arnold Allen, Brian Ortega. Sterling wants to get his hands on the featherweight title and is open to going down whatever path that may require. I want to fight up. I don't really want to fight down, but if I have to prove my worth again, then it is what it is. I'm still chasing that gold. If I could get a second gold belt, man, that's another legacy thing that people can't take away from me, so I'm chasing history at this point. Of course the paychecks are good, but I'm not fighting just to be in there to say I'm fighting. I'm in there to beat the best guys. I'm in there to say I fought the best guys, and that's what it's about for the rest of my career. I would say that I have maybe 1 or 2 fights ahead of me, so it just really depends on the landscape, how I look in the fight, what Topuria is going to do. If he's going to vacate, then that puts 2 new challengers to fight for a vacated belt. So it really depends. I don't really know what's going to happen in the future, but I'm patiently waiting. Hopefully I can make my return in April, maybe fight again in August or September and get ready to go. Song Yadong eyes knockout win over Henry Cejudo at UFC Seattle. Song meets former bantamweight champion Cejudo in the February 22nd headliner at Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle. The Team Alpha male fighter has been angling for a fight with Cejudo for a while and will finally get his wish. He expects Cejudo to implement a heavy grapple approach in their fight, but he's ready for it. He's a very good wrestler. He's an Olympic-level wrestling skilled. I believe he can take me down, but I don't think he can hold me down. I know I can handle it. I believe in my ground skills. And this fight, I will try my best to knock him out and give him a lot of pressure in the cage. I like 5 rounds. I will knock him out in the early rounds or beat him by decision, but I will win the fight. I believe in myself. Since coming out of retirement in 2023, Cejudo has lost back-to-back to former champion Aljamain Sterling and current champ Merab Dvalishvili. Song suggests the 3 years off harmed Cejudo. It's not a good time for him to come back, and it wasn't the good time for him to retire. Israel Adesanya says UFC 312 will be hard fight for Du Plessis and Strickland. The second pay-per-view on the 2025 UFC schedule takes place on Saturday, February 8th. That fight card, UFC 312, is headlined by a middleweight title fight rematch between current champ Dricus du Plessis and the man he took the title from in January 2024, Sean Strickland. Former UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya, who has faced both men, feels the upcoming bout will be a tough test for du Plessis and Strickland. I say that Dricus wins that one if it's close, maybe. Or maybe it's more decisive this time. It's going to be a hard fight for both men, but I think I would give the edge to Dricus in this fight. Adesanya, who dropped a decision to Strickland at UFC 293 and lost to Du Plessis via submission at UFC 305, also said that he is likely to be in the crown for the February 8th event. Adesanya is booked against Nasruddin Imavov on February 1st in the main event of a UFC Fight Night card in Saudi Arabia. Islam Makhachev shares preference on who he wants to fight next. Islam Makhachev wants a fresh UFC title challenger for his next defense. Makhachev put his name in the history books after he set a new record for the most successful UFC lightweight title defenses. There's no word on who might be next for Makhachev, but the reigning 155-pound champion has one name in mind. I like this idea because I haven't fought Justin yet. I've already fought Oliveira and Arman, and preparing for the same opponent is not such a big motivation. But if Gaethje shows himself well in the next fight, we can meet. UFC CEO Dana White has said that Arman Tsarukyan won't be getting the next lightweight title opportunity. Tsarukyan has called for a rematch with Charles Oliveira to determine the #1 contender. Oliveira believes he's due for his own rematch against Makhachev, but nothing has been made official at this time. Alex Pereira responds to Magomed Ankalaev. Alex defends his title against Magomed in the UFC 313 main event March 8th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Ankalaev had been aggressively campaigning for the matchup, taking numerous shots at Pereira. Once their fight finally became official, Ankalaev continued to warn Alex of what's to come, but the champion is not interested in playing his game. He's a complete fighter, hard-working guy. I'm a complete fighter. I train hard. I'm the champ. We stay a little bit more quiet. He's the challenger. He's been talking a little bit, but I just stay composed. I just do my thing and focus on my works. I trained 3 times yesterday, so I'm just doing my thing. Ankalaev is unbeaten in his past 13 fights. His frustration was partly due to Pereira previously claiming that he won't be next in line for a title shot. Everybody can interpret it in a different way. He always talks that he's going to do this or he's going to that. Khalil Roundtree, a complete fighter, well-renowned fighter, isn't going to do anything Ankalaev is going to do.